For section 3-2, we are going to be going through 3 or 4 different transactions. These transactions are nothing that we haven't done before. Transactions we've seen in chapter 1 and chapter 2, just putting them in a journal. So our first transaction, we paid cash for insurance. So in chapter 2, we would have had these T-charts. Prepaid insurance is an asset. It would increase with a debit. And since we paid cash, we would credit cash to decrease the asset. Now getting it in our journal, we need to make sure we have the 4 parts. Part 1, the date. We need the debit. Part 2, anything in the account title is labeling what's in the general column. So prepaid insurance is a debit of $900. Credit cash for $900 as well. And then finally include the source document. So this was check number 2. So on your note guide, what is the document number? That would be C2 or check number 2. The account that is decreasing is cash. It's an asset, decreases with a credit. The account that is increasing is prepaid insurance. Transaction B on your note guide, we bought supplies on account. So what we would do in chapter 2, we would debit supplies on the left side of the T-chart, credit accounts payable on the right side. Now we're taking that information and putting it into our journal. Now you'll notice something different about this transaction than the others is that we are not using either of our special amount columns. So no cash and no sales. So we have to write both of these accounts out. So we have to write supplies and debit supplies for $220. We have to write accounts payable Canyon office supplies and credit $220. So it's a 2-line entry. A few things to note. You only write the date one time, so don't write it on both lines. You only write the document number one time. And finally, we always list the debit first, and that's in your note guide. So the source document for this would be memo number 1, and we always list the debit first. Our next transaction, we paid cash on account to Canyon office supplies, $100. So we paid cash. So I know right away we're going to credit cash. And accounts payable, we're going to owe them less, $100 less, so I'm going to debit accounts payable for $100. We've got our date. We have a debit. Remember, anything in the account title column is labeling what's in our general column. So we have a debit of $100 to accounts payable. Credit to cash because we paid cash. And then our source document is C3. Anytime we pay cash in your study guide, anytime we pay cash, a check has been written. We are not using actual cash dollars because we have no way of tracking that. And remember, the source document is proof of a transaction happening. So we need to have proof. If we give away cash, there's no proof that it happened. So we write a check, and the check stub is our proof. So there are 4 questions down at the bottom. Check yourself. When cash is paid for insurance, which account is listed on the first line of the entry? Well, we have prepaid insurance. That was transaction A. When supplies are bought on account, which account is listed on the first line of the entry? We always list the debit first. This is transaction B, and supplies is listed first. The next 2 questions, 3 and 4, those are both accounts payable. So that is our 3-2. Move on, you'll do the work together. And next thing up, 3-3.